Bismillahi walhamdulillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. I wanted to talk about the problem that we have within the Salafi Dawah in the West. And it's a serious issue because of the, the lack of direction that we find people have in the community. There's a lot of concepts which are not properly understood. And of those concepts is this idea of the Tawheed Awwalan. People take that as a mantra or they take that as a given, and they fail to realize the whole concept of Iman and how Tawheed is encompassed in Iman. When you have brothers that already have studied the fundamentals of Tawheed, are you going to tell them Tawheed Awwalan? Or are there other things that they need to be building on? So we have a misunderstanding of what Dawah is in general, right? Dawah, udu ila sabili rabbik, is to call to the whole of the deen, not to just part of the deen, the whole of the deen. The other issue that we have is yani faqadna marja'iyat al-Quran. The Quran is not the central focus. If it was the central focus, then the people would have a different understanding of who Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is, what their relationship to Allah is, and who they are themselves, and what is the nature of the reality that they live in on this earth. It's not just the issue of saying that Allah wa ta'ala created us for ibadah. Now you have to outline, what does it mean that we're engaging in ibadah? What is the role of the intellect with regard to contemplating on nature? What is the responsibility of the Muslim on the earth? Don't just tell me that it's ibadah in the limited sense of just worshiping Allah wa ta'ala, and the ibadah of zakat, and the ibadah of organizing the Muslim community, the ibadah of education, the ibadah of making sure that the youth are guided, the ibadah of family life, the whole of the deen. Let's stop playing games. Part of this philosophical approach to Aqidah, this is what it has done. It has caused people to have a certain mindset that they think that they study a couple books and they have Tawheed down pat. We can never master Tawheed without coming back to the Quran, ever. Because we cannot imitate the usloob of the Quran, the way of the Quran, the way that it is that the Quran impresses Aqidah. No one can imitate the path of Allah wa ta'ala in that regard. So we have to submit to that, right? And we have to realize that what we have before brothers, in many cases, in their discussions, are academic discussions. They're academic discussions. And those discussions, يعني نستطيع أن نقول يعني هذه الحوارات لا يخاطب القلب ولا يخاطب العقل. That's something important to understand. Like, it's not addressing the heart, it's not addressing the intellect. And so what's happening is that people are staying bereft without a reality of Iman. The sweetness of Iman is not there for them to taste. And it's not a situation in which they are comprehending that there's a big deficiency, right? And so behind the scenes, as everybody is screaming and yelling about what's right and wrong and this and that, that if you pay attention, if you give ear, there's major crises going on. People leaving the deen, people living split lives, people confused. It's not sufficient. You understand what I'm saying? And so they, the reality of من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه is an important hadith because it talks about priorities, what we should be giving priority to, what everybody should be giving priority to. And so that means that we have to understand our responsibilities. That's extremely important. We can't just keep saying, mimicking the concept Tawheed Awwal, and we don't even know what it means. You understand what I'm saying? If you have a community that already that you've been working on 20 years and you're still saying Tawheed Awwal, and you're in a problem. You understand what I'm saying? If you're not moving on to housing, if you're not moving on to social services, if you're not moving on to building education and economy and other stuff like that, then there's a serious problem. You didn't understand the minhaj of the sunnah. And someone has to be clear on that regard. You understand what I'm saying? The Prophet ﷺ didn't just talk about the oneness of Allah wa ta'ala. The Prophet gave tawjihat alayhi salatu wasalam as to how it is that we should be living life and how we should be orienting ourselves. So, the obsession with constant back and forth over what this group says and over what that group says and who's on the minhaj and who's not on the minhaj, how many years will you spend on that? And the proof of the deficiency of the approach is when you look at Minnesota. When you look at Minnesota and you look at Sheikh Walid al-Manisi and you look at how they have Mahad Qira'at al-Quran, Mahad al-Hadith, Mahad al-Sharia, you know what I'm saying? And they have institutions for people to study, you know what I'm saying, of different levels and different calibers, you know what I'm saying, and different focus areas. And so the focus is not just sitting around and just talking about Tawheed of this group or that group. And I've been to Minnesota myself. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with everything that's going on, which is not important what my opinion in that regard is. But what is important is to describe the reality. The reality is that it is an educational approach which is way more broad than what is being introduced by brothers. This is the constant back and forth shows that there's a deficiency in understanding how to educate the people. And it's controversial. So what? We're talking about yani masalih nas, the benefit of the people. We're not talking about our position and our standing and what we want and what we want to make clear that it's not about us. It's about the community and it's about the community's growth. And so if people had taught from the beginning something that was sound, the people themselves can discern what's an issue, what's not an issue. But because the people were not taught any principles or any basis, they don't know how to navigate with people that differ with them. They don't know how to differentiate between Y and Z, and we're still stuck in the same problem. That is a serious, serious issue. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've been to Masjid Noor in Abu Bakr and Masjid Farouk. But these are issues that we find that we have in the community, that there is really a lack of orientation and direction. Right? And in the meantime, and we keep saying this, we said this to the Ashari brothers, in the meantime, the community is being gentrified, being displaced. You understand what I'm saying? People are in dire situations and we have no solutions. We have no solutions because no communities were built. And so that, is a big mistake that's being made. If we want to move forward, then we move forward on al-asl. We move forward on what Allah descended to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is the Quran. And when the Quran is established, then people can understand what is the role of the ahadith. But to throw around ahadith is not the minhaj of the Salaf. Because, as a matter of fact, in the beginning of the da'wah, the people had to focus on making sure that they wrote and they memorized the Quran before they dealt with other stuff. And even if you look at the lives of the Sahaba, the leading Sahaba, they made sure that there were people that were teaching, that were appointed, and certain knowledge was restricted so that it wouldn't cause confusion amongst the masses. Right? And so this is the dilemma. People are stuck on bringing in ideas that they don't even know if it's what the people need or not. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know if it's something that's going to elevate the condition of the people or not. They're not even looking to see what the people need. And so this is a big issue in ilm. You have to take 5 to 10 steps back and realize that you may not have, gone the right route. It's a humbling process. Yours truly had to do it. Yours truly realized I had to pull back. I had to learn other things. I had to engage in learning mental health and social services, not because I wanted to, because I was forced into that situation, because that's what the community needed. And if I was going to be functional, that's what I had to learn at the moment. And I had to realize that I had to pull all the way back and I can't get the spotlight. And I sat like that for 15 years, just being in the community, just trying to work here, there, give a little advice here, there. That's the reality. Sometimes we have to learn that we may not be the ones in the leadership position. Sometimes we have to learn that our imams probably knew more about working in the community than we know. With all of the degrees and all of the knowledge, we still don't have the people experience. We still don't have the skill to run a community and make it work. You understand what I'm saying? And so there's a big deficit. And my advice to the Salafi brothers is that they take a step back and have some sort of constructive plan as to how you're going to move forward to build the community and lay off of the constant discussions of low level, you know, debates on this group and that group. You know, how long are you going to stay stuck on the same books? You know, how long are you going to stay stuck on the same masail? You know what I'm saying? And then you have very few people that have the capacity or have the ability to what? The ability to deal with divorce, the ability to reconcile between families, the ability to talk about the fiqh of, uh, of mu'amalat and everything that comes along with that. You understand what I'm saying? So what we're doing is we're fooling ourselves. We're staying stuck on a limited discussion. Hold on one second. We're staying stuck on a limited discussion on what deen is, and we're not even clear on what deen is. Deen is everything that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought. So if we're talking about the sunnah, then why aren't we living a complete lifestyle? You know what I'm saying? Why aren't we moving to a complete lifestyle? If anything, the main priority after Qul Hu Allahu Ahad, which is sufficient for every believer, is to stabilize the family. Because if there's no stability of the family, there's no ummah. If there's no stability of the family, there's no guiding of the children. And that means that these children go out into the world without having proper guidance, traumatized from coming from broken families. They're out in society alone, pretty much, because now the parents can't even function together. And now we have Muslim youth hanging out on the streets and everything else that comes along with that. So how can we say that we understand yani wajib al-waqt, what the obligation of the moment is, and everything around us is falling apart? We keep saying the same thing, but you know what? I'm gonna leave it like that. And on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah, we're gonna see who's on the haqq.